with me today, the legendary singer-songwriter, John Waite.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right, hanging in there.
You should see it up in the corner of your screen. It should say recording.
I do see that.
And I so appreciate your time because your input is so crucial.
Sure.
I want to take you back to the very start of this year.
Hi, Sabrina. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Maybe take a step back and...
Well, I'll go in order of I guess, occurrence.
We had a... Hold on a second. We had a great year coming up. Hold on. Can we start again?
Why don't I just launch into our story of the pandemic? I'm scared out of my mind every day. I'd be lying to you if I said anything but that.
Thank you so much for letting me be a part of this.
All right, here we go.
1, 2, 3.
I don't really know what a normal year is because my whole life has just kind of been this like progression of getting, busier and busier. But what I was hoping would be my normal, I guess, started last year when I was on the road almost constantly. I was touring with another band called Big Wild, playing bass. I went back to Europe back in, I guess it would have been January, February. It was about 6 weeks. I toured Denmark, Germany, Switzerland, the Netherlands, Austria, Italy, all over. And I got engaged in Copenhagen. That's when we started hearing about the virus getting more serious and traveling to different countries. And I just remember being with my tour manager, and we were in Germany and we were reading the news and we're like, oh my God, it's in Germany now. Like, it was just like following us, it felt like. And then it was in Italy and we had just been in Italy, and that was just kind of like the beginning of that, like, oh my God, I think this is going to be bad. It was kind of insane, just like watching every single show just like vanish. And it was almost like, I remember in Portland, there was that weekend where everybody was kind of like hanging on by a thread. We were all like, okay, so I think the show's still gonna happen on Sunday, Saturday, but maybe we'll just wait and see. And then I just remember everything within like that 24 hours just canceled. I think in the beginning I was still kind of holding on to this hope that, it wasn't gonna be as bad. But once the reality hit, I was really depressed. That was like, I think it was just like this dark cloud just over both me and my fiance, and just kind of this like stark reality of how we were going to have to adjust to life with so many unknowns and absolutely no work remaining for me. I realized how much touring, it's such an adventure. You don't know what your days are going to look like necessarily. I miss the person that I am when I get to tour. Kind of like forces you to jump out of your shell.
All right, everybody, I want you to hold up your glass, cheers your neighbor, and say, I love you.
You meet so many amazing people. I think for me, it gave me a lot of purpose. So being stuck at home every day, knowing that there's no plan for me to head out on the road and do what I love and be in that energy.
Monday, you guys. I feel so tired today. So very sleepy. I slept great, and I just feel like I could go right back to sleep. But it was a great Thanksgiving. Oh my God. It was such a great Easter. Oh God, you guys.
I have really struggled through this time with my depression and anxiety, and that mental challenge can be really debilitating. And there's some days or weeks where I don't have it in me to try to plan. It's just, you know, I've had conversations with my friends just being like, is this even worth it anymore? Like, what is the point? There's so much going on in the world that feels so much more important than my little career. Like, why does this even matter? So it's like, it's paired with just the, you know, the everything going on in the world and feeling like what you're doing doesn't matter, but also just like this impending doom of, will it ever be back to the way it was? I started grinding and trying to get my unemployment money, which was such a mess. And me, along with so many others, you know, had to wait months to receive anything. So I was more or less relying on my savings from that year prior. One of the first things I did was reach out to my, just kind of my base of students that I was teaching prior to being on the road. And I was just like, hey, I'm back. You want to do some Zoom lessons? And I knew that that was something that I could easily jump into, knowing that I could at least rely on that while I figured everything out. One of the things that came to surface was live streams.
We did it. We're here. We're live. I'm 20 minutes late, and I'm so sorry. I had some major technical difficulties.
And when you're doing a live stream by yourself in your basement or living room, it's hard not to be in that kind of like stressed out rehearsal mindset. I miss talking to people after shows and just having that back and forth of fan to artist. That's the toughest thing I think that we've lost. The beautiful part of all this, you know, my fiance and I started a garden in our tiny little backyard, which I was never much of a green thumb. I know that that's the thing that a lot of people did, and I think that's beautiful. I think we created like a little oasis in our backyard so that we had somewhere to go that was pretty and nice. And we got a puppy, a little golden retriever, COVID puppy. And so learning how to take care of another living thing in the midst of all this, and then also just like simply sitting in my living room with a candle lit and like my little lights on and just singing through some song ideas or just working on lyrics and just like having my space to just be like, all I have to do today is enjoy myself and my creativity. That's like all I have to do, nothing else. And I think it was hard to let myself do that before. I'm giving myself a lot of grace to move through my emotions and my feelings and my levels of inspiration, and I not judge myself if I'm having an off day. The main thing is to just appreciate where I'm at, even if it's like not where I am aspiring to be yet. Appreciating the little things, appreciating the nights I have with my fiance, not taking those for granted, appreciating just being able to cook dinner, you know, be at home and just be with my family. I think that I'm gonna continue to allow myself more grace in taking time on things and maybe not feeling so rushed, because I realize that like the world can wait.
I mean, 2019 was a darn good year. And I just kept seeing 2020 as the year that was gonna make everything that we've ever done up to this year, up to 2019, which was a fabulous year. It was just gonna simply destroy it and kill all the records. And going into the year, I had 26 shows on my calendar, pre-booked for 2021. I had a new album coming out, something I haven't done before. It was just a dream of mine. And if you recall, I was saying to you that 2020 was a year we're finally all gonna see 2020 vision and see it clearly. And hindsight is 2020, no pun intended. But I will say that I guess we got our wish. It just didn't exactly turn out the way I expected it, but you know what? We all see a lot clearer now than we did before. You know, I kind of figured that this was somewhat serious because everyone I knew had kids that stopped going to school. So at that point, when the kids stopped going to school, little by little, all across the country, I said to myself, wow, this is like legit serious. I remember thinking to myself, it's going to get serious, but how serious? It can't be that bad. Maybe in the next 90 days at most. Here we are, almost exactly a year later. And I just can't believe that we're still talking about this.
You guys ready? All right. Where my beautiful Italians in this house?
It hurt a lot because I was so used to it. I mean, you got to remember something, that I'm good for 25 to 40 shows a year. And to go into the year with 26 beforehand means I would have had 50 to 55 shows. So to start off with that, it would have been literally like it was when I was 19 years old, if not better. And people understand it more now. I mean, you're talking about almost a moment of depression, but not just for the people who got on stage, but for the people who used us as an outlet to just be somewhere else, find themselves in a place where they don't have to necessarily think of everything that's going on around them, because we all grew up together at the same time in different places, and we all went through the same things together. So the one thing that we had in common with each other that brought us together to escape everything that was going on in real life has been now taken away. And taken away to a point where you're wondering, is it ever going to come back? Is it ever going to be the same? When is it going to come back? How different is it going to be? And, you know, for me, I try to dig deep, and I'm always the kind of guy who always thinks positive. I try to uplift everybody around me. My life is all about trying to inspire people and make them feel better. But when you have the world on your shoulders and things are not going great, after a while, even the people who try their best to inspire, when they fall down harder than those who they've been inspiring. I actually got COVID. I got COVID in October. I had a little headache for the first day, little shoulder pain in the back, and I quarantined in the hotel for 10 days by myself. And then my son ended up getting it, my youngest son. And we spent the 2 weeks together in the hotel. And every day I prayed, and every day I took all my vitamins and my supplements just to ensure that anything I could possibly do to make this go away and not affect me, I did. I was so afraid of losing my voice. I was so afraid of this going into my lungs. I've had asthma since a kid. And I was very worried that I'd be that guy that, you know, doesn't end up well. I was free of symptoms after 48 hours. And I was just blessed. But I got to tell you, every day after those 48 hours, I wondered, is this next day going to be the day? Because I heard the week after that you get it, the second week is where that's when things start getting bad. And each day I would just count down and going, okay, am I over the hump yet? Am I over the hump yet? And I remember getting past the 9th day and saying, holy cow, I only got a couple more days and I'm good. I was so scared, but I was so thankful. I don't think I've ever been more thankful. Like you're thankful for a lot of things, but you know, like I spend so much time being thankful for others. I thank God and the universe for the blessings that I have for myself and for my family and for my successes and for all that stuff. But most of my time is spent pushing the blessings out for somebody else and praying for someone else. And for me to say, please don't let anything happen to me, this just means everything to me. And then this was like, what if I lose my voice? That would be the end. I would have nothing left. And that was a very depressing moment. But I stopped it really fast, because I just believe that no matter what's going on, the best cure to anything is you have to believe wholeheartedly that everything's going to be okay. Your attitude is such a big part of any type of healing that exists. The only thing that I think matters right now is that if you're able to watch this right now That's something you should be thankful for. Because there are so many people that we lost. So many people. And I know we lose hundreds of thousands of people every year with, regular flus and all kinds of other reasons why people die. And nobody really knows the true definition of how and why this happened. I have no clue. It's way above my pay grade. But I will tell you that I know it's real. I can prove it's real because of what's going on around us. I can prove it's real because of the people that we've lost, the people that we looked to see on a Friday or a Saturday or a Wednesday or just a phone call every once in a while. And all of you guys, every single person that's watching this has lost somebody or knows somebody who lost somebody. This is the first time in history that the world has had to deal with something negative at one time, at the same time, all together.
A typical year at the Florida Theater, we do about 175 nights a year. So we have a show on average every other night all year long. For several years, we've consistently been one of the top 5 most attended theaters in the country under 2,000 seats. We were able to book some really tremendous shows, and we were raising money towards a capital improvement of the theater. Just everything was firing on all cylinders. And if you'd said to me, listen, within the next 90 days, a global pandemic is going to sweep the world, and one result is that you're going to be completely closed, I would have said that's science fiction. And yet 90 days later, there we were. And on March 12, when we had our last show, we were afraid that we were going to be closed for 2 or 3 weeks. And then it turned out to be 9 months. We recently did the calculation, and year over year, 2019 versus 2020, we lost 96% of our income. Just think about that for a second. The worst part of it is that all of those people who work shows, the stagehands, the bartenders, the security workers, the box office reps, the cleaners, all of those people have had no work all year long. And that's, horrifying. That's over 200 people. There's a huge trickle-down effect from our activity. So in our neighborhood, there's a bunch of parking garages. So every night we're open, the parking lot attendants have another night of work. Every night we're open, there's more business in the restaurants in our area. So more waiters and more cooks and more busboys and more bartenders are working that night. All of those people were out of work. And all of the bands and artists who didn't come here, they all employ their own road crew, their own band members. The guy who carries the guitar on and off stage every night, that's a job. And that guy didn't have work either. They employ bus drivers and truck drivers. They're in hotel rooms. None of that happened. And all of those people were out of work. I'm scared out of my mind every day. I'd be lying to you if I said anything but that. My wife says to me over and over again, well, they will never let the Florida Theater die. And I keep saying to her, who's they? You focus on tomorrow, because there's no other choice. You got to get up and do the work and get to tomorrow. I am still working. My family's safe. They're all healthy. We are one venue out of thousands across the country. And, every historic theater, every performing arts center, every little 100-seat club is going through the same thing. This has been devastating to the live performance industry. We were all asked to close, and many are still closed. And we were asked to do it for the good of the country. And I think everybody was happy to do it, but it's been super tough.
Thanks for coming tonight. We want to ask you all to do a couple things because we want to make this safe for everybody.
It's not financially viable to keep doing this way in the long run, but, it's something. So we're happy that we have something. The performers, pandemic and health issues aside, are thrilled to be in front of an audience again. Drive-in concerts, Zoom concerts, podcasts, there's nothing replaces the immediacy of being in front of a live audience who give you that instant feedback. And, artistically, the performers have been really thrilled to be in front of a live audience again. One of my hopes out of the pandemic is that we will realize how important it is to have live performances and to have that experience. And that's essential to our sense of community, and being in a communal setting with other people enjoying a live performance is critical to your mental being and your mental health, and to developing a sense of community. And being deprived of it for all these months is going to make us appreciate it in the future. That's my hope.
We were playing a lot. We were doing about 70 dates a year, with the shot of doing additional corporate gigs and stuff and private shows. And we were supposed to go to Holland as well, in Germany, to play. And but we were going out with a full band and doing playing theaters and art centers, probably about 250 to 500 people. And on occasion we would do something like an amphitheater and sell it out, 1,500 people. But we were continuously kind of on this trail of doing the wooden heart thing. It's like we go out with a drummer, electric bass, electric guitar, and acoustic, and we would start off playing some of the really big hits, like Midnight Rendezvous, or Back on My Feet, Isn't It Time, Every Time I Think of You, Head First, and then we'd stop and do acoustic songs, and the audience would sort of lean forward. I mean, it's really, everybody seems to, people shout out requests, talk to you, ask questions, and there's a real engagement with the audience. And that became by far my favorite thing to do, And that meant we could go into smaller gigs like Iridium in New York City, in Times Square, and do 4 nights, 2 shows a night or whatever, and pack it out.
This is like a suicide mission. I should get a blindfold and a cigarette, shot of tequila. This is by the Babies, and if you know the backup part, sing it. And if it just crashes and burns, I'm gonna keep going. 'Cause you paid to get in. And I'm gonna sing it if it kills me.
It was always interesting because every show was different. The set list was different. The audience is different. You never got the chance to just coast. Not that you would want to, but it was always a challenge. And that brought me back to the table again and again and again. I really enjoyed it, but it all stopped, We went to Florida and played 3 shows. And then I went to New York City to take 10 days off just to reconnect with the city. Then I got on a train and went to Chicago, changed trains in Chicago, and went on to LA. Just because I hadn't done it before, I thought I'd try it, And by the time the train got to Union Station, when I got off and the driver picked me up to drive me back to Santa Monica, the streets were empty. And, it was like a zombie movie, It's like you come off the 10 freeway by the ocean to come to my place, and it's like there's only a few people on the street, and it was like a science fiction movie, It's like, what's going on with this, And within about 2 months or 6 weeks, we were in lockdown. I think if you're left to look in the mirror for a year, you should come out the other side of it a better person. Because when you're busy, you don't have to really take account of who you are. With this documentary that's coming out, I'm going to have to watch 20 people that are famous or whatever talk about me. And I've been interviewed, and I've been pretty open and tried to be as truthful as I can. Because why not? I think that I can be really intolerant, and I've never been good with authority. So when you go out and somebody's, you know, hey, 6 feet, hey, you know, blah, you know, I want to make it all work, but at the same time, I don't like being told what to do by anybody. But I think everybody's sick of it. Everybody's absolutely had enough of being locked up. Psychologically, you know, you can do it for a few months and it's like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then after 6 months, it's like, Jesus, you know, and after a year, it's like, I've had enough. I'll take my chances, you know, and that's where the world is. And I mean, it is like wartime. It is, you know, and people have lost their livelihoods. There's businesses gone out from under people. People have lost their jobs. People are on welfare. They're getting checks. This isn't just like, this isn't a small thing. This is a worldwide epidemic. And unless we all follow I mean, it's too late now. They've just opened up London, you know. Now there's a huge spike in London. And the new strain affects young people directly, you know. So the virus kind of is smarter than we are. It's like an energy. It just knows how to protect itself and avoid losing its existence. So it's always changing. Like every year you get a different flu vaccination because the flu keeps mutating into something that you can't kill. And that's what the virus is doing. And it's wiping out people in India, wiping out people in Africa where they can't get enough vaccines. My mother in England, she's 96 and she got vaccinated, and she's still really careful. She doesn't go out to the stores without a mask. She hardly ever goes out now, but my niece takes her shopping and stuff. But everybody I know, apart from my girlfriend, she hasn't been vaccinated yet. She wants the Johnson & Johnson, I think, the one-stop shop shot. You know, she doesn't want to go for 2. So she's trying to find that. But at this point, I think just about everybody I know is vaccinated. Where people talk about going back on the road this year, I just don't see it. I mean, if we have one gig coming up in a couple of months, we were going to play this motorcycle rally, headline this thing outdoor, really big thing, and the promoter wanted us to play so badly they've cancelled the gig, but he's going to have it in his back garden. You know, he's got 150 friends, and they're going to pay us the full amount, get the huge PA, and we're going to go and play and social distance, and we're going to play this gig. But that's a really one-off thing, you know. I can't see going on the road. You know, I just, people are trying to do it, but I think it's going to have a tremendous backlash. I don't know what to tell anybody anymore. Just look after yourself and keep your family safe and just try and do the right thing. And it's going to be a while before it gets right.
So a normal year for me, I have to say it's a really social year. I'm a social butterfly for many reasons. Like on a personal level, like I just like to meet with my friends. I have a very, very good core of friends that we love to meet. We love to see each other. We bring the kids together, either without kids, with the kids, and just kind of traveling and performing, and everything I do is a social gathering.
All right, you guys, you've got hands, you've got feet. We know how the Bronx gets down. Let's see you do it.
When I'm performing, I'm usually performing in concert venues or nightclubs, and I usually have 2 girls performing with me. When I even home, I have a really large family, a family of 5, and then plus 2 dogs. So, you know, on a typical day and a typical year, my life is filled with people. I'm very rarely alone or isolated. So, you know, COVID kind of changed the world, right? Because of everything I did just on my daily, it really impacted me. And it wasn't a negative. I can't even say in a negative way, because sometimes I think I needed the solitude and I needed to slow down. So I looked at it as a positive, but for a long time, I felt very disconnected from my friends, very disconnected from the world. I still can't believe we're in this place, you know? And even though we're slowly coming back, when I look at pictures of shows, when I look at pictures of gatherings, and, you know, social media has a fun way of reminding you where you were 1 year ago today. And yes, it's just like, do you remember what, it almost looks odd to me. Like, that's never going to be the same. We'll never be at that place again. And how did we think that was safe? You know, we think that was, I look at it now and I think, well, was it safe? Were we always kind of tempting fate? But, you know, it really changed the way I lived. It changed even just how I looked at family. I have a toddler.
What's the party for, huh? The party, kid.
My twins, they're going to be 18 years old. They're going to be going on to college. The blessing of this was I was looking at this senior year as it coming fast, coming quickly, and then losing them. But I will say that the minute we were quarantined, I was with them every day, every minute. And it was time that I just said, you know what? I'm not going to get this back. I'm never going to have this again. So it's almost a gift to have them near me. It really made me appreciate my home, and that's another thing, like, home became your sanctuary. And either you were really grateful for it and grateful for the space, or you were like, oh my God, I'm outgrowing this really quickly. So it made me love my home. It made me utilize every little bit of my home. And it made me just have more time. I was close with my children already. I'm that helicopter parent, but I could feel them breaking away from me. And it was nice to have them nearby. It was nice to have them in here, in my home. And we were forced, so there was no fight, there was no battle.
Hey all, just checking in, well-being check really at the end of the day. Just want to see how you all were doing and give you share a little bit of my morning.
And you had no choice. You had to connect with anybody, and you had to work through Zooms, work through internet, work through any kind of social media, any FaceTime. You had to push through that wall to connect, you know? Even you and I are talking, you know, it's the difference of kind of sitting there and just chatting, or really, you know, talking and really getting into each other's space with that screen. Like, you just had to kind of try to create that connection without all the bells and whistles. That's what it became again.
Let's see if you know some old school songs. You ready? You ready? You want to sing along? All right. You got what I need. Come on, come on, come on. Just a friend. Say what? Oh, baby, you got what I need.
So 2020 for us was going to be one of our best years. We had about 25 shows lined up. Large venues, medium-sized venues, and small clubs. So it was all mapped out already. We had a cruise going on in February, so we were like oblivious to what was going on in the States with this virus. I mean, we were hearing little drips and drabs, but I mean, I wasn't even paying attention to the stock market or anything, you know, till we got home, and then it was like, oh, all the stocks went down 20%, 25%. They were talking about canceling, but you didn't think it was real because we were away for a week, so we weren't up on the day-to-day, you know, situation, what was going on. Then when we got home, we had a show in Boston that Saturday, and I actually had a really bad cold. I didn't even know if I was going to go. And, you know, me, old school guy, I just sucked it up, and we went. We did the show in Boston, and it was a great show. And we had a great time, and then that was it. The next week, they canceled. I had a show with George Lamont in Staten Island at a club, and they canceled it the night before. And then that Monday, they shut everything down. I mean, I'm 68 years old, so I went through a few wars. You know, we went through the Vietnam War. You know, we had so many tragedies, 9/11 and over the years, and this just, it snuck up on us, and it was a gradual continuation of a disaster, and you just kept thinking it was going to go away, and it just kept getting worse and worse and more serious until you're like, hey, you're not making money for a month, you're not making money 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. I even owned a little lounge in the Bronx called Evo Lounge. I had that problem, so you have no income coming in. And what the government and what people, a lot of people don't realize in our industry, in the concert, restaurant, and bar industry, you might be shutting down our club and our venue, but that venue and that club was money to pay our home bills. So now we are getting hit twice. We have no money for our home bills. We have no money for our business bills. So, this industry is getting annihilated, and there's going to be places that will never open again. Never. You never recoup. And there's, people like me and a lot of other people who are using up all their retirement money and their savings that they were going to leave to their children. You're paying bills with your savings, and it took years and years and years to save it, and it's taken 1 year to blow it all. You have so many people out there suffering, and it's heartbreaking because you're suffering yourself, but you're also suffering for your family members and your friends and your workers. Me and my partner, Brian Rosenberg, we were like, what are we going to do? And we know there really wasn't that much money in it, but it was just to stay visuals, to be out in front and have the fans come out and some of the workers and some of the artists. And, you're like, hey, let's work together and let's try to put together a virtual, obviously, it didn't turn out the way we wanted to, but it was a great show. So we gave the public a really good show. We're at Adventureland in Long Island, getting ready to do our drive-in show tonight. So we're going to go live at 8 o'clock. The drive-through, we did 3 drive-ins, and it was fantastic. We had cars out there. We had a lot with 150 cars, which wasn't much, so we didn't make that much money. A lot of people think, they see all these cars and people, but the expenses to a concert the cost is as much as if you had 500 cars. So it's the same cost. So unfortunately, the lot wasn't that big, but it was great. We had a tremendous turnout, and the vibe was fantastic. And to be back out there on stage, just feel like you're doing something, hoping that it was going to turn around. Now, we're not clear of how it's going to go because we're at the end of December, and I don't see any clear path. Hopefully by the summer, but that's another 6-7 months. Nobody making money. That even when the clubs or the restaurants open up. And, clubs are one thing, they don't have food, but the restaurants, they got to lighten up on the restaurants because they supply so much income and jobs for so many people. And even the taxes and everything that they pay, the rent, where is this all coming from? I know, everybody got the loans, but you still got to pay it back. It ain't like you're not paying it back. Some people in their mind think they're not paying these loans back, like, I'm not going to pay it back. But, they're going to come after you for it. And so that isn't like giving somebody money to let them survive. That's just giving somebody to let them survive so they're going to be in trouble at some other date down the line. We're going into our 9th month now. So, the little unemployment, whoever was getting it, and some didn't even get that. But a lot of the artists got crushed. I love when they say, all right, you're going to go from 50 down to 25 capacity. What are you going to, 25% might even be how many workers you have. Like, you still need a cook, a second cook. You need somebody that's going in. You need a manager. You need a porter. You need a secretary. You need the waitresses. You need the bartender. You still need all of the immediate important employees. So at 25%, you might as well stay closed. Yeah, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. But again, the spirit is, everybody's morale is pretty low because every time you think you're gonna see the light, it gets worse. And so many people are dying. I don't know why certain people die and certain people don't. This past week, I think we've been averaging like 2,000 a day. That's crazy, and this year we've lost so many friends. I've lost so many people, not just in the music business, but personal friends, family members. You know, it's heartbreaking. That also. So every day you wake up, there's no money. Somebody's sick. Somebody's in the hospital. Somebody passed away. You know, people can't even go see their loved ones in the hospital or at, God forbid, at the wake or the funeral.
Just left the doctors. Oh, damn. Yes, it went well. So, I am negative. Hello. Finally, after friggin' 60 days, I'm negative. I always wanted to be positive, because to be positive is to be positive. But now to be negative is to be positive, if that makes sense.
You know, when you're laying in that bed and you're that sick and you don't think you're gonna make it, then all of a sudden you ain't really worried about money too much or your bills or anything. Now you're just worried about, please, God, let me stay alive. Let me get through this. I promise I'll be good. I hope my name is on the list when I get up there. I don't want to not be on that VIP list.
We had a lot of big plans in 2020 with a new album release on a brand new record label and a lot of big festival shows booked. I did 25 shows, which I'm very thankful for those opportunities. I actually did a world tour in 2020, and I'm not sure how many guys can say that. We were able to do the Monsters of Rock cruise and Cozumel, Belize, and then went to Australia for my first ever Australian tour. And literally within a week of us getting home from Australia, that's when the travel ban was instigated. I was under the impression that it wouldn't last very long and they would, burn itself out, or it was a false alarm, or obviously the disease is very deadly and it's very real. And we decided to push forward with whatever shows were on the books. The Sturgis Rally in Sturgis, South Dakota, obviously that's our residency.
Sturgis 2020, baby!
We did 5 headline shows at the Sturgis Rally.
I know the colors of the American flag. We stand up for those. We believe in what we say and we believe in what we sing. So we put together this medley of songs.
And I was pretty sure that one was going to happen, but they waited until the last minute to give us the green light, and we were concerned that event was not going to happen as well. I met with the guys in my band, and we decided as a group unanimously that if the opportunity was there to play, then we were going to do that. If any one guy in my band had vetoed that, I would have respected that concern and stayed home. One very difficult aspect of this now, because I have been out there and on tour and participating in live concerts and gatherings. I have a friend who is blaming me for the death of his father. His father passed away from COVID and it's my fault. I don't agree with his take on it, but it hurts. I've seen some very healthy people that were really stricken with this and with long-term effects. One of the toughest things about my stance, the fact that I'm not afraid to go out there and play shows, it's very tough to promote gigs, because you're inviting people to come to an event and they might be putting themselves at risk or putting their loved ones at risk. So how do I promote my shows and ask people to come see me? Hey, come check us out, come watch the show, come have a good time. It's very difficult to do that at the end of our summer run, right after the Sturgis Rally, when the band was on fire. We did a big production live stream concert online. We had 6 cameras, high def, huge production, and we had 12,000 views on that stream. It was an expensive production, but it was worth it. To be able to entertain people all over the world, regardless of the virus. The live streaming platform is fantastic, and I love doing it. I think people are watching it on their big screen TVs with their big sound systems, and they can enjoy the show from the comforts of their own home or wherever they're at. One thing 2020 really taught me, that really hit home, was that I'm not essential. And I always thought that there would be a need for entertainment, that I would always be able to make a living with my music and be able to to perform or entertain people. I could go to a bar somewhere on a bar stool with an acoustic guitar and make a couple $100. I realized that's not the truth. So that really hit home to the fact that, man, maybe I'm a dinosaur. Maybe people don't really need or want what I do.
A few years ago, my wife Renee was diagnosed with cancer. And as everybody knows, because most of our lives have been touched by cancer, that's a game changer. All of a sudden, you realize that day when you get the diagnosis, everything is different now. I'm not going to be able to tour. We're going to have to put an emphasis on sanitation and wipe down the remote controls and the light switches and sanitize the house, because someone with cancer has an increased immune deficiency. So we were ready for this because of her bout with cancer. I had built a platform online on the Patreon page where I started engaging my fans with live video, vintage video clips, audio, interaction, and created a live online community of my fans. It's like a tribe, or it's a family.
The disease is real and it's deadly. I don't take that for granted. You gotta keep moving on. I miss all those things. I miss my hair. I miss the 80s. I miss a lot of stuff. But you know, life goes on, and what choice do I have other than to stay positive, keep working hard, and hoping for the best?
We do merch for a lot of bands. Lost 80s is one of the things that we've done in the past. We're the merch company for a lot of those bands separately, and then we do the merch for Lost 80s, or we have. We're also Family Feud's merch company, which is like a weird twist because most people don't think of Family Feud as something where merch would happen, but we do 16 auditions a year all across the country, and we can get between 4,000 to 5,000 people at those auditions, and it's a lot of fun. We're a little bit different than some of the other merch companies out there in that we print our own merch. So we have our own screen shop, embroidery shop, all that stuff. So we're both printing and then, you know, shipping and selling, whereas most are just a lot of, not all, but a lot are just, you know, the bigger ones are just ordering in goods and shipping it out. But we're actually physically making it and shipping it out and actually selling it in a lot of cases. One of our biggest bands, the week that everything shut down, had a tour starting that weekend. You know, like I guess that the NBA shut down on a Wednesday. Their tour was starting in Florida on Saturday, and we had $25,000 worth of goods that we were getting ready to ship for their tour. And I remember thinking, let's hold it. We have time. You know, we like to ship early and have it there, but I was like, let's wait. And when everything shut down, obviously we saved money on UPS. We didn't have to ship it back. But from our perspective, I have $25,000 worth of goods that is just sitting there, and they can't pay me for it. And now they're booking tours in Europe for 2021. They may not get here again until spring of 2022. So I'm sitting on those goods for what, 2 years? And you know, I can't go to them and say, pay for it. They don't have the money. So it's the impact of this is just massive. I don't think anybody can really predict it. And you can never recreate that merch buying experience at a concert. You know, when you're at the concert and the adrenaline's flowing and you walk up to the merch booth and you're like, I want that shirt. And they're like, it's only in small. And you're like, I don't care, I'll lose weight. And then, you know, and then the next day you're like, what the hell was I thinking? You know, like you can't recreate that, and you can't create that experience. So as a merch company, it's like we're trying to be clever and come up with things like, you know, let's do a limited edition, you know, all these things, but nothing can recreate that live buying experience. It's those impulse buys. There's nothing like it. Masks have strangely been a massive blessing for us. And we started finding people who needed masks, and we've been printing and supplying masks. If it wasn't for the mask business, we would be gone right now. And obviously that's only going to last for so long. So I don't really know what to predict for next year. I'm optimistic, but I have no idea. And but I don't think I don't think it's going to be the summer. I hope I'm wrong. But I don't think, and then, you know, how many people are going to be comfortable going out? I don't know. Music makes people happy. Even sad music makes us feel something, you know, in happiness or something. But music makes us happy. I think when people aren't in any industry, they don't always understand what's going on. And I think people have this idea that musicians, even if they play in a big room, are making a lot of money. And that's not always the case. And touring is ridiculously expensive. The overhead, if you've never done it, would shock you. So I think when the amount of work that goes into a tour to prepare for it, set it up, and all that, and to have that all fall apart is crushing. And not just for me, because putting a tour together, there's so many people. And you know, the merch company is one small part of it. You have the booking agents, you have the venues, you have the alcohol sales, you have the people who do the parking outside. I mean, there's so many parts of this that when that show doesn't happen, affect everybody. And I don't think people realize just how many people depend on the music industry for an income and how many people are really suffering. I see a lot of people posting and saying things like, well, why aren't these bands helping out the people that work for them? But I don't think they understand that there are so many people that are involved in this process. It's not just, you know, the few people in their inner circle. It's a whole machine, and there's no band out there that could really support this whole machine. It's too big. And so I'm sure, I know of stories of bands who have said to like their touring crew and people like, don't worry, we got you covered. But that's one small part of a huge machine. And again, it's frustrating to see people saying those things because they don't understand how many people are involved in this. And when this is all over, it's going to be really hard to get a lot of those people to go back out on the road because, you know, they've started other lives and careers. It's going to be resetting an industry in a way that I don't think anybody can actually know how that's going to happen or what's going to happen, but it's going to be a very different world when we go back out.
We started the year in January doing orchestral shows in Nashville, and then we carried on doing some touring, little bits here and there in February, and then in mid-March is when we had to shut down. The first reaction I really remember was as we were out, and at the beginning of March, I started to feel like, wow, our days out here are numbered. Something is, you know, something seriously going on. And when, and by, like I say, by that second week in March, you could just feel like, okay, something's going to happen any day. And then we were literally going to do a show the night of March 12th in Minnesota at a casino. And because it was a casino, everybody felt like, okay, we're kind of cool. And then all of a sudden, the governor ordered a statewide closing of anything over 50 people, I think, or 100. So we had to cancel right then. So that was the first real dose of, okay, this is real. You know, now things are canceled. We had already had several other shows cancel already. So that was when it was like, okay, we're pulling up stakes and going home. Then there's the period of time for the next few weeks where you're thinking, well, can this really go on that long? And there was the question, you know, immediately, like, well, what are we going to do about Europe? And then Europe went away pretty fast because of the U.S.'s slow reaction to everything and poor response. So, and we had some Canada in there too, and we knew that was going away. Canada wasn't going to let us in. So again, it was a very slow realization of how long it was going to be. It took a long time to realize that it was going to be a year. I mean, after a few months, you started thinking, okay, this is real. This is going to go on a while. But we still, in the summer, were thinking there was a possibility that October could happen, and then that went away. I have noticed that a lot of people in the earlier spring, when the lockdown started happening, a lot of people were planning on lots of recording projects were starting to be planned, and I could see people thinking big. And I noticed a lot of it has kind of fallen aside. So I think one result of this shutdown is that people kind of lost their their momentum and their mojo a little bit, which may not be a bad thing, because maybe it's, I kind of view this as a big pause, just a big needed pause. But I know there was a couple of people I was talking to that were like, oh, let's do this, let's do, you know, and a lot of that's fallen through. I think it's hard to get your mind around doing too much when you're in this kind of lockdown space, and I kind of get that. On the personal level, it was great being off the road, because I had been doing it for 15 years, and being home is wonderful. You know, I have a beautiful recording studio connected to my house, so I'm able to do anything I need to do recording wise here. So on a personal level, it wasn't bad. Being home and being in my studio was a great thing. But that's why it gets around to, like, with our crew. I mean, our crew, who, you know, they're like family to us. And these guys aren't going to work for a year. For them, that there's a big difference. I can at least do some recording. They, you know, their whole industry just up and left. You know, just walked away. So that became a real big concern. You know, our production guy, Steven, is probably the first guy to mention something like, wow, you should think about this, as it started to look like, whoa, this is going to be long term. I think he mentioned something about, wow, what about the crew? So it got the band thinking, well, what can we do? And that's where we came up with the online auction. And we just kind of pooled our resources and thought, what can we do? And having an online auction for items that we can sell through that. You know, we have old vintage T-shirts lying around. We have, you know, there's a lot of stuff. So we've raised quite a bit of money, and hopefully we'll be able to, you know, raise considerably more, because, you know, we got 10 people basically that we're dealing with and we're trying to really take care of. I've always been a fairly introspective person, but of course this kind of takes it to the next level. And I think, I mean, you can't help but have, you know, kind of self-examination and just, like I say, introspection on a deeper level. And I think also a real recognition of what is important and what isn't, you know, in the big picture. I think sure makes you realize how much day-to-day activity can cloud us with a lot of things and burden us with a lot of things that aren't necessarily the most important thing in the world. And I think this kind of forced us all to address that to some extent. You know, I think some people, I mean, you know, I've always kind of fought with a little bit of depression, so I've had to, so this has been a time to really use the tools that I have to fight that, and I don't lose sight of the fact that I am lucky in all this. I've been very, very lucky. I don't think any of us could have seen coming, because we've never experienced it before. But I noticed a lot of people getting, like, I say this, getting knocked down, but I don't necessarily mean it in all that bad a way. Just kind of knocked down from being real motivated to just kind of backing off. And maybe that's not a bad thing. I mean, I hope we all get our engines running back up again. But I hope when we do, we have this clearer perspective and maybe do things a little more efficiently and a little more carefully. It'll be interesting to see how people are different when we come out of this. And I hope we're all very appreciative of our world when we get back to it.
Independent venues are a crucial part of the ecosystem for artists and communities. It's where artists get their start. They don't start in stadiums. They start in the local, small, independent place. And that's why we have a Bruce Springsteen and Lady Gaga and Lizzo, because they had a small neighborhood place where they could get their start to develop a following and hone their craft. And it's where so many artists want to come back to. But stars don't start in stadiums. They start in a small independent place, and that is how it grows.
The impact to me as a small business owner is undescribable. We're not able to do what I've been doing for 26 years.
The challenge is that we have a giant space with very high overhead, and our model is based solely on social gatherings.
Before the pandemic, there was no such thing as the National Independent Venue Association, and it took a pandemic to make us look around and realize that we're going to have to come together in order to seek emergency funding, or we would all go under. When you have no revenue and enormous overhead, there was just the chances of our individual businesses and the industry surviving was just about nothing if we didn't come together. So in April, just a couple weeks into the pandemic, a handful of folks in the industry got together and formed NEVA, and one of the first things that happened from there was the formation of the advocacy team, and we selected Aiken Gump, which is a lobbying firm in DC that is one of the best known, and it was the absolute best decision we could have made, because there's no way to have a bill passed if you've never done it before. So we got their expert advice, and we also went from 0 members to 350 in the first week. So that showed that we absolutely all agreed that this is a dire situation, and we all needed help, because, you know, if I were to underscore one word in the name of the association, it would be independent. These are really staunchly, voraciously, fiercely independent people and businesses. We have 3,000 members, and that's a combination of venues and promoters and festivals. And we estimate about 300 venues have gone under as we were fighting for help. We don't have a full number on that. There's no system for people to report in, but that's gathering news articles and seeing social media posts and talking to people. Every jurisdiction has different regulations revolving around COVID right now. So, for instance, in Washington, D.C., we're forbidden to open and have been since March 11th. Other states have got differing rules and regulations, so it is not a universal thing. Most are closed. It's the tough part is all of it. It's our employees being out of work and us having to furlough 95% of them, and worrying about them and their ability to hang on until it's safe for us to be able to reopen. The thing that has been so challenging is that we've had no revenue because we can't do takeout and delivery of the live music scene, and we can't mail it to people either, like you can with e-commerce buying a t-shirt or something like that. So we have been shuttered for about 10 months now, and we really don't know when we're going to get to reopen yet. That is something that is going to be, in some respects, based on local governments making that decision, and also that will be when people have vaccines in their arms. That's going to be something that we absolutely need, and the whole country needs, for people to be able to be safe, to be able to gather, to have businesses that have as many people in the room as they possibly can. After a really arduous year of nonstop effort by probably hundreds of people to be able to get the Save Our Stages Act passed, it was passed within the COVID relief bill, and that was signed into law December 27th. So that was an enormous feat. We don't have relief yet, though. It feels like an enormous responsibility for everyone to try to get every business and person that is able to apply for the grant to be aware that it is coming, it has been approved, and what to look out for the process to start. But this is, it's a bit of a limbo situation right now, and it's certainly better than we were before the bill was turned into law. My goodness, yes. But it's almost like you hear that the lifeguard is on their way, but they're not there yet. just last week, we sent out an announcement that said that we were able to provide $3 million in grants to a total of 153 venues, and which sounds great, except for the requests that we got totaled 14 million. So we're 11 million short. And the more we can do to generate attention and donations for that, the better. I would say, besides the emergency relief fund, if people have favorite venues, they could go to their websites and see if they have donation programs going on directly, or to buy merchandise from them, because that really helps. Some financial help is on the way. It's probably not enough for everybody, and unemployed people need it, and those that are hungry or struggling to provide for their housing need more. So we're cognizant of all of that. In fact, any chance we get when we're talking to elected official, we remind them that what just happened was really helpful, but likely the country's going to need more.
Developing right now, the World Health Organization is concerned about a flu-like virus spreading throughout China.
We started hearing about cases in China, and then in early January, started hearing more about it, and then by mid-January, the first case in the U.S. And that's when, for me, it started to sink in. Like, uh-oh, we have a problem here. We have a real problem because, we're seeing this spread rapidly. And then when we got into February, we went to Mexico and performed, and when we got back, we were in lockdown mode. And that's when it really settled in and made me realize, okay, this could be life-altering and life-changing. And I knew in the back corners of my mind it was going to, of course, affect the music industry, and not just the world, but since I'm a musician, my first thought was, okay, we're not going to be touring, this year, most likely. And that's my livelihood. Our livelihood, has been altered, and we've had to figure out ways around it. And I started to feel like, okay, we're not touring. We were supposed to be at Sweden Rock Fest, and we were supposed to be at M3, and we were supposed to be here and there. And all of a sudden we weren't. And then I could feel the effects of COVID. Our lives are at stake here, because your livelihood is your life. If you can't work, if you can't eat, you're not going to survive. You have to be able to work. You have to be able to eat and pay your bills and continue on. Some people are falling into depression and alcoholism and drug addiction and whatnot from this whole pandemic, because they're so upset, and rightfully so. But, there has to be a way around it. And I think so much of it starts here, how you think. You can either be really negative or you can be really positive, right? And no matter what the circumstances are, there's always a way to rise above those circumstances, always.
First of all, I want to let you know, I'm thinking of all of you guys. I think of you often. I think of you daily. And I hope, my thoughts always are, I hope everybody out there that follows what I do, follows what the band does, I hope that you all are truly safe and healthy.
I tell you, it's tough for me too. It's not like I wake up every day and it's easy and no problem. I mean, I have struggles like everybody else. I go through days where I'm feeling down and out and like, oh man, I just don't feel like doing anything today. I'm a little depressed, or I'm worried about tomorrow. I go through that too. But I'm always going to try my best to drive around it. I booked all of 2021 already. I've got like 5 projects on the calendar for 2021 that take me all the way to the end of the year. And then we're going to start on another Striper album at the end of 2021 into 2022. So it's just the way Lisa and I, my wife, the way we think long term. We don't just think about today. We think about tomorrow and the next day. And then, and a lot of people say to me, gosh, how do you do that? How do you book next year? It's like, it's just how I'm built.
I think subconsciously I've been taking on more work because I might be a little fearful that there won't be any work, which it isn't going to happen. That's just my own
you know, personal battle in the back corners of my mind. But I mean, if you look at my calendar for 2021, it is filled up, literally filled from January to December. And I look at it and I get overwhelmed and I think, oh man, whew, it's a lot of work. Oh my gosh. But I'm grateful for the work. Don't waste a day. I mean, and we've all done that. We've all wasted time and days. It's one thing to take a vacation and you got to do that and clear your head, but it's a whole other thing to just sit around and waste your life away because of fear or because you think you can't do it or what have you. You can do it. There's nothing to be fearful of. Be smart, be wise, but get out there and live life. I'm just always about encouraging people, you know, to find the light in the dark, and there's always light, and it always overtakes the darkness. And you know, don't let life break you down to the point where you feel defeated. Just keep moving, you know. So I use this model often lately, and it's been said many times, but it's so true. Is the best is yet to come if you believe that. You know, cling to that, hold on to that. And there's so many great things that are coming our way. We don't even know about. We haven't seen it yet, but it's coming.
Anybody here ever seen strapping before? Who's never seen strapping before? This is the first time, right? Well, I'm glad you guys are here, man. Thanks for hanging for our set.
I think what's going to happen is when we go out to play for real live, that's going to be a shock to the system. You know, it's going to feel good, but I think it might take some getting used to after a few songs. Like, oh my gosh, this is different. You know, the people are here and they're making noise because we're getting so used to this new way of doing things.